It's decided. When it comes to Iran, Congress is happy to keep letting the president call the shots. On Thursday, the House of Representatives, with its Republican majority, voted to reject a resolution which would have demanded congressional authority over the Iran war and an end to hostilities. Democrats say it is a war and therefore requires approval from Congress, but Trump loyalists argue it's a limited military operation.
We are not at war. We have no intention of being at war. The President and the Department of Defense have made this very clear. The Department of War has made it very clear. This is a limited operation. It's an operation that's limited in its scope and duration. It has a very clear mission, and that mission is nearly accomplished by all estimates.
By MAGA estimates, perhaps, but others remain in the dark about how long this war might take or even what the ultimate objectives are.
What happens afterwards? There's no plans. What was planned to get Americans out of the way that are still stuck there? There's no plan.
It follows a similar vote in the Senate which had the same result, a narrow win for Trump's Republicans. Democrats are planning to table more challenges, and Associated Press reports that behind closed doors, administration officials have spent hours reassuring lawmakers that the situation's under control. Trump promised an end to foreign wars, and the longer this one goes on, the more reassuring his acolytes will have to do.
Kedevin, what did you make of all this?
Well, look, this was clearly bound to fail. The Democrats knew that, both in the Senate and in the House. The goal here was to get Republicans on the record agreeing and giving Donald Trump basically congressional authority to go ahead and wage war, because Democrats know that this war is already unpopular and is likely to get more unpopular as it drags on. But what it shows also is that the last sort of legal constraints on a U.S. president deciding on his own to take the country to war has sort of disappeared, at least with this Republican leadership in Congress right now. Now, Donald Trump is not the first one to do so. If you look back, basically, the United States and the Congress in 1973 passed this war powers resolution in order to rein in the sort of decision by U.S. presidents to go at war without asking congressional authority, which is written in the Constitution. But after the Vietnam War, they were like, no more. We are going to take back our authority. They passed that war powers resolution. And since then, the big wars, Gulf War, the Iraq War, the Afghan War, all of these were with congressional authorization. However, every president, whether they were Democrats or Republicans, has sort of chipped away at this war powers resolution, which gives limited opportunities to U.S. presidents to sort of decide on their own. It has to be a really imminent threat of attack on the United States, and it shouldn't be a all-out war. And that's why when you look at the explanation from some Republicans, you see that they're focused on trying to work around what actually is happening in Iran. There's the question of, is this a limited operation or is this an actual war? It sort of sounds a little bit like what Vladimir Putin was saying about the military operation in Ukraine, but that is a big difference. Are there strikes or is this a war? The other thing is the question of how imminent the threat from Iran was actually on the United States. That also determines whether or not this is actually illegal. And finally, there is one big point that could change in the foreseeable future, is this question of troops. Right now, a lot of Republicans are saying, look, there are no troops on the ground. We're carrying an aerial strike campaign. This is not exactly war. If in 2 weeks Donald Trump changes his mind and decides to send troops on the ground in Iran, that will be a totally different ballgame. And then you could potentially see some Republicans starting to feel a little bit uneasy and giving Donald Trump so much leeway when it comes to waging a war. But clearly what you're seeing here is that Congress is not playing its role in reining in the U.S. president, as it has not in the past. And as Donald Trump said, the only thing limiting him right now is his own morality, and his morality is telling him to go ahead with the war in Iran.